one of the things in this debate I've heard a lot, I'm not sure, Kevin, if you have as well, is are battlefield monuments okay?
Yeah.
Or and what's the distinction? And that's I've come across this question a lot, and for me, it's appropriately contextualized at the space of a battlefield, and I'm expecting them.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because you know, maybe I see it as more problematic. Although I think the one thing we do have to acknowledge is that we're talking about federal land versus like
Exactly.
local property, and that of course is a whole other ballgame
Mhm.
because trying to get the federal government to do anything, right? I mean, so the monuments are staying. I think we
Yeah.
can at least agree on that for the foreseeable future. And I think in most places, especially those run by the National Park Service, they do a phenomenal job of
Yeah.
interpreting them, trying to sort of place them in the context of the battlefield. But when you're standing at the North Carolina monument on the Gettysburg battlefield,
Mhm.
and that monument is a beautiful monument of North Carolinians facing forward on July 3rd, 1863. There's a plaque, very Lost Cause-esque,
Yep.
that praises these men. And what are they looking at directly? What are they marching toward? The Bryan Farm, a free
Exactly.
black farm, a
Mhm.
family that had to flee, right, as Lee's army is coming into Pennsylvania in the summer of 63 and kidnapping upwards of 200 free blacks, right? So, I mean, if you know this story, if you know this history, you can certainly use these monuments as windows into this past. But, for the average family, I wonder what they are
Yeah.
walking away from, seeing Robert E. Lee hovering
Yeah.
over, looking out over Cemetery Ridge. Does this reinforce the lost cause of
Well,
a gallant attack, right? The
see,
high watermark.
the only time I think Gettysburg's I go there is when they do Bike Week. But other than that, because they have both sides there, and the Alabama monument, teach that one. I'm like, yeah, it took years, and I always put a picture that I took at the battlefield of it. But
Yeah.
the thing about the North Carolina, as someone who knows about and has grown up hearing about the stolen ones that African Americans taken, there's a conversation that I think happens locally that doesn't always happen nationally. And they're
Yeah.
like, oh,
Yeah.
they're going here, and it allows them to talk about Bryan's Farm.
Yeah.
But the Federal Park Service and the National Parks of Gettysburg and Antietam have done such a great job
Yeah.
that in these spaces, I'm fine with. Some of the state ones, though, like in North Carolina, they could do some better contextualization,
Yeah.
especially one going towards the Wilmington area that they still like to say the War of Northern Aggression on their markers, like that stuff
Yeah.
can come down.
Right.
But these memorials on these federal lands that have been the Park Service and the Federal Service has been really here. So for me, if it's not here and getting a sense of space and we can't have it somewhere else, but these are one of the better examples, and some of the other ones should learn from these models.
Yeah.